And we are on Facebook Live, everyone. So if everybody who is not speaking, keep um, your microphones muted. But if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can chat in the chat box for James, our first speaker, and then we'll go from there. All right.
All right, sounds like a plan. Well, good morning, everybody. As Pam said, my name is James Beaver, and thank you all for coming out this morning to the webinar for real estate investing for new home buyers. 1 second here. All right, a little bit about myself. My name is James Beaver. I'm originally Kentucky. Don't hold it against me. Left Kentucky at the ripe old age of 19, went to the Navy. So on the left-hand side, those are my first two places that I resided. One was an aircraft carrier. The other one is a supply ship. I got out of the Navy, moved to Atlanta, and I got an associate's degree in electronics, and then started working for a company called Xerox. While I was working for Xerox, I purchased my first home, and that's the first house that we lived in. So if you look at that house in the bottom left-hand side there, that's actually a picture of the first house that we lived in. And then after a while, I ended up leaving Xerox, worked for a company called Danka. While I was at Danka, I met a few individuals that had their own little side hustles going on. And one of them was in real estate. His family had investment properties in South Carolina. So that's kind of how I got introduced to real estate investing. Okay. And so while I was at Danka, I started to pick up some properties. I think in total at one point I had probably about 8 or so properties. The house on the right with the lights, that's one of the investment properties that I had. And it actually was like the third one that I acquired. And that was directly across the street from where we used to live at the time, right? So we moved out of the first house. The first house actually became our second investment property, and the house on the right, like I said, became the third property. Everything was moving right along. I actually left Danka and started a couple of other businesses. But then when 2007, that market crash came, it took my entire deck of cards out. I had a non-emergency medical transportation company, I had a tutoring company, and like I say, I had about 8 or 9 investment properties at that time. So ended up having to file bankruptcy and then actually go back to work. So went to work for a company in 2008, setting up, installing self-checkout equipment and training people on how to use those all throughout the United States, right? And so after doing that, I was there, I guess, until COVID happened. But around 2017 or so, I went and got my real estate license because I wanted to get back into doing investing. And some of you may or may not know, but after you file bankruptcy and have foreclosures on your credit, you have to wait a certain amount of time before you can start taking out loans and mortgages again. Okay. And down in the bottom right is my little Rottweiler Jackson, right? All right. So on to the matter at hand. Why do you want to purchase the house and why now, right? Everybody has their own reason why they want to actually purchase a house. For me, at the time, I was tired of living in an apartment. We had our daughter and then our son had just came and we just wanted to change the scenery. So you can do it for better schools. Everybody has their own different reasons as to why they want to purchase a house and then, what's prompting them to do it at that time. And again, for me, on the right, that's my wife, my son, and my daughter. So that's my reason why. All right. So the first step in real estate investing is really simple. Basically, you want to get pre-approved for a loan. How are you going to pay for the property, right? So we're talking about owner-occupied financing. You're going to be living in the property, so you need to get pre-approved unless you have the rich uncle that has cash that he can just give to you. Most of us are going to need to get some sort of financing. With that, you have to make sure your credit scores are in order. You're going to have to make sure you have money for a down payment, closing costs, appraisals, home inspections, and then when it comes to down payments, what kind of interest rate are you going to be paying on the money that you're going to be borrowing. Conventional, 15%, FHA, 3.5%. If you get something in a rural area, they have USDA loans where you don't have to pay any down payment, but you will still have closing costs. And if you're a veteran like myself, then you can use your VA entitlement where you don't have a down payment. But again, you still have closing costs to contend with. All right. If you don't have your credit in order, if you don't have enough for a large down payment, then there are still other ways that you can actually get into a property. There are what's called lease or rent to own programs. There are a lot of different programs out there. What they allow you to be able to do is to spend that time, a year, 2 years, 3 years, what have you, building your credit, trying to repair your credit, save up more money for a larger down payment. Some of them, you can even at the end of the term, if you decide that you don't want to purchase the home, you can actually say we just, relinquish it. If you just want to like test drive a neighborhood, if you're not sure if you want to live in that neighborhood, you can possibly return the property at the end of that lease term. You can also possibly lock in future purchase price. So you can get in a lease to own program today and then negotiate the terms where you're going to pay X amount of dollars at the end of that actual lease term, okay? And another thing, some of the programs, they actually allow you to be able to build equity in the property as well before you actually have a mortgage. We'll talk a little bit about equity a little bit later, okay? The second step in real estate investing is to actually buy a property, right? So we're talking about owner occupied at this point in time. So you're gonna actually be living in the property. And the good thing about owner occupied, everybody has to have somewhere to live, right? So because you're gonna have to have somewhere to live, why not we can double dip, or what we call house hack, right? With house hacking, that allows you to be able to live in one of the units and then also be able to rent out the other units, whereby the tenants that you'll have will actually be paying some, if not all of your portion of the mortgage payment, okay? And the good thing about oneplex, duplex, triplex, and fourplex is that the way that the financing is set up, those don't fall underneath commercial. So you can have an owner occupied property and then still have it to be an investment property at the same time. All right. Benefits of buy and hold real estate investing. Some of the benefits, right? So cash flow is one of the main benefits. You want to definitely make sure that you are getting more money coming in than what you're actually paying out in your mortgage. So let's say that your mortgage that you pay is $500, but the rent you're collecting is $1,000. So your cash flow is roughly around $500. Have to talk about, other expenses that you would have along the way. But for the most part, you want to have positive cash flow coming in from that investment, right? Equity. Equity basically is the difference between what the market value of your home is and the amount that you actually owe to the lender, right? So let's say that you have a property that's actually worth $100,000, and then we're going to jump into appreciation. So you have a property that's worth $100,000, but then after a certain amount of time, it goes up in value. So let's say it's now worth $20,000. So now the difference between what you owe the lender and what the market value is in that example is $20,000, right? So your equity in the property is $20,000. And then we jump down to number 4, we talk about the amortization, or paying down the principal. So every month you're going to be making monthly mortgage payments, right? So again, originally you purchased the property for $100,000, and after you've paid it down, so now let's say that after a year or so, you've paid it down where your mortgage is now only $90,000 or $95,000. So you have that additional buy down, which is also increasing the equity that you have in your property, right? It's also a hedge against inflation as well. So normally inflation is averaging about 2%, right? So since 2016, inflation has been going up every year. The cost of everything has been going up across the board, on average about 2%. usually for investment properties or home prices, they're increasing year over year on average about 3.5%. But the market that we're in right now has just been so crazy that on average, the last 12 months, we've been seeing median home sale prices increase up to 18.2%, right? So you've got that 18.2% that's you're getting as far as equity in your home, which is increasing the value of the property a lot faster, right? Also, another benefit is the tax benefits. You can do some write-offs. So when you make repairs to the property, if you need to replace an air conditioning unit, if you need to replace a hot water heater, those types of things can be categorized as business expenses. And then you can actually write those off, you know, dealing with your tax professional. And then you have depreciation as well. And then we have something that's called self-funding, right? Number 7, rinse, wash, and repeat. So basically what that means is we talked about the equity that you now have built up in the property. So in the example, we got $20,000, $30,000 worth of equity in the property, right? So you could actually do a cash out refinance where you can refinance the property, pull out the equity because it's your money. So you can pull out the equity in that property, and then you can actually use that money to actually go and purchase you another property. So that's why they say that real estate can be self-funded, because with the appreciation and then the buy down, it'll actually increase in value to give you that cash to be able to pull out for another investment. Okay. So now let's say that you do have a duplex, triplex, or quadruplex, right? How do you go about filling up your rooms? You've got a number of different options out there: short-term rental, mid-term, long-term rentals, and then you've got sites like VRBO. I know everybody talks about Airbnb, but there's other options too. Furnish finders, you can book directly with people where they contact you directly and want to rent out your room. So there's a lot of different options available out there. Independent living facilities, you can rent your house to veterans and things of that nature. So there's a lot of ways to fill up your room. So don't think just because you've got a quadruplex and you can't find anybody there. There are a lot of different avenues that you can go in order to get your rooms filled. Okay. Now, previously we were talking about owner occupied, right? With owner occupied, the financing that we were talking about from 0 up to about 15%. Well, when it comes to non-owner occupied, it's the down payment cost is going to be a lot more, right? So you're going to have to bring more money to the table. So that's why in this conversation, we're talking about if you're thinking about owning a home and you're thinking about investing, and you can do them both at the same time, that down payment is how much you have to come to the table out of pocket. So why not go into it with as little money out of pocket as possible? And then when it comes to non-owner occupied, like I say, you're going to have larger down payments. You're going to need to know more about the rent rolls, because the lender, now that it's going to be an investment property, the lender is going to require more documentation and more information from you. Okay. You may need a property manager. You may need a handyman, and then do the numbers work. What do I mean by that? Do the numbers work. You want to definitely make sure that when you are calculating what your monthly mortgage is going to be versus what your future rents are going to be, right? So not only your mortgage, and we'll get to some additional expenses. There we go. All your expenses, you want to make sure you factor in all of your expenses and make sure that all of those are covered by what you're going to be bringing in with regards to your mortgage, your rental payments, right? So you got your mortgage, property management, vacancy, utilities, repairs and maintenance, property taxes. So there's a lot of expenses that you need to make sure that you factor into the equation when you're looking to do not only the non-owner occupied, but the owner occupied as well, to see if you can afford all of the expenses with what you can possibly bring in with regards to the rents. Okay. Now, so let's say that you are now looking to try to scale up and you're interested in acquiring more properties, right? So these are some additional acquisition strategies. How can you acquire more properties, right? And now this is talking more so about the non-owner occupied. So like we talked about before, cash out refinances. So you can do a cash out refinance. You can do something called seller or owner financing. Basically, that's where you can go to somebody who actually owns the property and you can ask them if they would be the bank, if they would be the lender for you. You buy it directly from them and then they collect the monthly mortgage payment and they collect the interest on it as well. You have something called subject to. We've got lease options, lease purchases, private money. So you can go to family and friends and say, hey, you guys interested in going in on a property together? Credit cards. Yes, I said credit cards. I've actually acquired a property using credit cards as well. You can do a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit.
Money never sleeps.
I'm sorry, somebody's talk. Can you mute your phone for me, please? So we've got a home equity line of credit, business lines of credit, personal lines of credit, hard money, which is just another lender that's going to charge you higher interest rates. And then we have something that's called the BRRRR method, which is where you buy it, you rehab it, you rent it, you refinance it to do a cash out refi, and then you repeat the process all over again. So there's a lot of different strategies that you can use if you're looking to buy non-owner occupied property and scale up your real estate business, okay? Areas to scale into, types of real estate, right? So you got residential, you've got commercial, you have industrial. So the sky's the limit, you know, you can pick up any of those. I've heard a story, I haven't done it myself, but where some people that have vacant land, you can put it on a site like Airbnb or something like that. And people that just love to camp, they will go to that site, they'll see your land and they'll pay you to come and actually camp on your land. So there's a lot of different areas and avenues that you can grow into when it comes to real estate investing. All right. And then last but not least, protecting your assets, So you don't want to amass this massive real estate empire and then have somebody come and take it from you. They just had a slip and fall and they want to sue you and they have a savvy attorney who's able to see what assets that you actually have and then take all of your assets from you. So you definitely want to make sure that you look into estate planning, business entities like LLCs, corporations, trusts, wills, and also insurance as well. Definitely want to make sure all your properties are covered to make sure that you don't have somebody to just come in and take everything that you've worked so hard to actually build. Okay. And then, so with that, I think that's roughly about 20 minutes, close to about 20 minutes. So Pam, I'll just turn it back over to you. And if anybody has any questions, I'm free to answer.
Let's give him a round of applause. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So does anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can ask a question in chat. Anybody? Nobody has any questions? Okay. All right. So thank you so much, James. That was an awesome presentation. I'm going to introduce you guys, and his contact information is right there at the bottom. James Beaver, 470-444-9949, and at James Beaver Team. So I'm going to introduce our Lawrence Poole. He has over 30 years in the insurance industry, life insurance and property and casualty. As James mentioned to us before, you want to protect your assets. And one way of protecting your assets is via insurance. That's just one way. There's other ways too, as James mentioned before. So I'm going to bring on Lawrence Poole. Let's give him a round of applause. And so, Lawrence, you have the floor. And let me see.
Thank you, Pam. Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's doing good on this rainy day up here in Virginia. But you know what? That means people are home and we can help them. But like Pam said, I've been in the industry for about 30 years. I was an all-state agent for about 16 of those. Now I'm an independent agent. I focus mainly on life insurance, but I still sell property and casualty when need be. Or if I can't sell it, I'll refer it out. The main thing is making sure you can help families out here. So your most important investment that we're going to talk about today is two things. Number one, the home that you purchase. Because for a lot of people, that's going to be the most important investment that they make in their entire life. So we have to make sure that we have coverage to protect our investment, whether it's your home you're living in, whether it's rental property, whether it's vacation property, or whether it's property that's been willed to you or deeded to you by other family members. All of it has to have insurance. So the main thing you want to do is make sure anytime that you get a piece of property, you get it insured right away. It doesn't matter if you say the property, well, I got to do some work to it, so I'm not going to get insurance on it right now. Yes, you do. You get insurance the moment you take title, because if anything happens to that property, whether it's a storm that comes through and blow it down, that's your property. You need insurance to rebuild it. Whether it catches on fire, that's your property. You need insurance to rebuild it. Whether it's by theft because someone goes in and steals your air conditioning unit, steals your cabinets out. And let me tell y'all, there's horror stories out there. I know a lady that purchased a home and they went in there and stole everything before she closed. And she didn't know, and then she closed on it. But once she closed, that's yours. So she didn't have the insurance on it to take care of those things. So that's why it's so important at closing. They should have paperwork there that your insurance starts the day that you sign the papers at the title company or the attorney's office or the real estate office or at your house or with a person that comes by and does that signing. The insurance has to be in place. Therefore, it takes possession as soon as you sign those papers. That's very crucial. If you don't do that, you got a big chance of losing everything that you just put your money down to purchase. So imagine you buying a brand new house, don't get insurance. The house is worth, let's just say, $200,000. So you done put down $100,000. Let's say you pay cash for the house. We're gonna use cash for right now. You pay cash for the house, and you don't buy any insurance right away, and a storm comes and blow the house completely down. There goes your $200,000. Nobody's gonna help you rebuild that house. So unless you have the money to rebuild that house again, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna be there without a home, probably nowhere to stay. And let's just say you just borrow money. So you borrow $150,000 because you put about $50,000 down on that house. In the same scenario, you will not own that home. I'm sorry, you will own that home, but you cannot rebuild that home or fix that home because there's no insurance on it. So insurance is here to put you in the same condition you was in prior to the loss. Most people out here, we have two family incomes. So when you buy the house, it's normally the husband and wife with the income from work that's contributing to that mortgage. So you both are paying for it. For some people, if you're a single mom or a single dad, it's just you that's paying for that house. So I want you to paint the picture of, I said your most important asset that you purchase is a home. But the second most important asset that you have is your life. Okay? So people say, my life? Yes, that's the most important. See, that life is what makes it possible to buy that home. Because without the job and without your life, there is no home for you or your children. So you want to make sure two things happen here. Number one, you want to have life insurance. Number two, you want to have mortgage protection insurance. So you're going to say, wow, are they the same thing? Yes and no. Because you want to have one policy to protect you in case God calls you home. And he calls you home, so now your income is gone. You should have a life insurance for your family. And that's to keep the family going until they can decide what they're going to do. That's number one. Number two, you should have a mortgage protection policy to pay off that house in case something happens to you. A lot of people might say, well, I don't need the mortgage protection. Yes, you do. Because if you have income going into that house, then you need to protect that investment. Some people say, well, I'm the breadwinner, so I don't need any life insurance on my wife. Yes, you do. Because if she's taking care of those kids, imagine her not being there. And now you have to find someone to come there in the morning to get those kids ready for school, get them on the bus, to be there when they come home, fix their meals, especially if you're in the military, especially if you have certain types of jobs. Think of you as a real estate agent, gone a lot of times selling houses, but nobody's home with your kids. Think of you as an insurance agent, a doctor, a lawyer, even working at Walmart on a night shift. That's where you've been all this time. Who's going to be there with those children? That's where life insurance come in to put someone in place to help you out. And when we look at mortgage protection is just what it says it is, protecting that mortgage. And you do not want to get a decreasing term policy. You want to get at least a 30-year mortgage, a 30-year term policy, or you want to get a 30-year index universal life. And it don't have to be 30 years because it goes to age 120. So with those type of policies, the coverage covers for your life. When you have the life insurance, the mortgage protection will protect that mortgage. Also, what's done now, what a lot of companies don't offer, is we have what's called living benefits. So I don't know if y'all can see this brochure that says living benefits. If you can't, y'all can call me afterwards. I'll send you some information on it. If your insurance policy that you have for your family, for yourself, on yourself, does not have living benefits, you're paying too much for too little, unless you have a final expense policy, which is more of a burial policy. Okay? With us, those living benefits come with our term products, with our whole life products, and also with our index universal life products. Now, what does that mean when you say living benefits? Living benefits means you don't have to die to use your policy. See, things have changed. They learned that people were living longer and getting sicker earlier. So some insurance companies says, we're going to put out there living benefits on these policies so that people do not have to wait for someone to die to collect that money. So now instead of leaving your family, people say, I'm not leaving my family no money, but you don't have to with the living benefit plans. You're going to protect yourself while you're living. Let's say you get terminally ill. What's qualified as terminally ill? Generally, if you have been diagnosed with a terminal illness that will result in death within 24 months of certification of the illness by a physician. So if a doctor says you're going to die within 24 months, it can be 1 month, it could be 6 months. But if the doctor says that and gives you a note, you bring it to an insurance company that has these living benefits, then they will let you access 88% of your money. So let's just work with $100,000. If your policy was $100,000, you got to take 88%. That's $88,000 you can take because you're terminally ill, do whatever you want to do. You may say, I'm going to pay off the house, whatever is left, and I'm going to take my family on vacation. That's fine. That money is yours. That's one of the living benefits that we have. The second living benefit is chronic illness. So what qualifies for chronic illness? A doctor has certified within the past 12 months that you are unable to perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living for a period of at least 90 days, at least 90 consecutive days without assistance, or that you are congenitally impaired. So activities of daily living is bathing, continence, dressing, eating, torturing, transferring. See, we take these things for granted. But if you have not visited some of these nursing homes or some of these senior buildings where people can't do these things, that's a chronic illness. You are allowed to take up to 2% of your money of the $100,000. So that means at 2%, you can take $2,000 per month paid directly to you off this same $100,000 policy. Now that will decrease your death benefit, but when you have an illness and say you're chronically ill and can't go to work for 6 months and disability do not pay all your bills, here's where you can go and pull some of this money out. And this is not the cash value in your policy. This is part of your death benefit. And that's why it's so good to have these living benefits. The third living benefit is critical illness. And what qualifies for critical illness? That includes Lou Gehrig's disease, which is ALS, aortic graft surgery, aplastic anemia, blindness, cancer, cystic fibrosis, end-stage renal failure, heart attack, heart valve replacement, major organ transplant, motor neuron disease, stroke, sudden cardiac arrest. And these are typical things that people do get. If you listen around, you hear a lot of people coming up with some of these things, especially these days today. So that's part of the critical illness. Same results. 2% of the $100,000 is $2,000 a month. You can take it for 6 months or 1 month or until the money runs out. But at least this gives you options, okay? And our fourth living benefit, which most companies out here, I would say maybe only 2 companies that I know of have these, and that's critical injury. What covers critical injury? Coma, paralysis, severe burns, traumatic brain injury. So I want you to think about that again. This critical injury includes a person in a coma, paralysis or being paralyzed, severe burns, and traumatic brain injury. Now, these are things that we don't really think about when it comes down to this, but you imagine you just went out there and bought a $250,000 home. You purchased that, you and your family is doing great, and 9 months from today, somebody gets sick, okay? And you have nowhere to pull money from. How would you maintain your mortgage? If you have this policy with those living benefits, that's how you would do it. There's jobs, there's money on job, but it's not always enough to take care of everything that we need to take care of. So you want to make sure that when you sign the papers, and you can do this prior to signing those papers, get with one of us, and we'll talk about your needs. We'll do a financial needs analysis, and we'll definitely make sure that you have coverage. Now, understand this. It's like anything else. It's just like buying a house. You got to come when your credit's right. It's like buying a car. You got to go there and get it when the credit's right. Insurance works the same way. Not only do you have to make sure that your credit is right, but you have to make sure that you are in the right health. We do have plans which may not have some living benefits if you may already have a situation, but we do have a plan that we would definitely write something on so you can at least have a burial plan. So I want y'all to think about this. Some people say, well, where would I get the extra money to take out plans like this? And if you're on this call, you don't have to wait until you purchase a home to take out one of these plans. You should have one in place right now. So the extra money to put these plans in place, just look at where we're spending our most money at. Whether it's on hair, nails, Nikes, cable, eating out. Those are just 5 of the most things that we do as human nature, because we never look at our budget. We just spend. If you're using a debit card, you never know how much money you're spending. But I want everybody to take the time to just go 1 week, 5 days out the week, Monday through Friday. I want you to count every penny you spend and know where every penny that you're spending goes. And at the end of the week, sit down and look at how much money you have put to waste. Even if it's eating out lunch. But if you eat out lunch, it's about $8 to $10. If you want to eat at McDonald's. If you want to be one of the savvy people and eat somewhere else like Chick-fil-A, it might be a little bit more. Okay? So we got to control our spending habit so we can put in place what we need to protect our mortgage, which is one of our best investments. Also to protect our lives, which is even a better investment. And not only protecting our lives and our spouses' lives or our significant other lives, but protecting our children's lives too. Because if you start now and protect the kids now, they get one of these policies, they are healthy for the rest of their life. They got whether they be healthy for the rest of their life or not, they continue to have that same policy that you started way back here. One last thing before I let you go. I want y'all to think about this. And probably the people on the call here is not the ones that need to hear this. But if you had a vehicle and you was driving and you got in a car accident and you totaled that vehicle, but at the same time, you died in that accident, is it fair that you have insurance on that car and somebody's going to get that insurance money for the car, but you don't have insurance on your life, so your family gets nothing. So why would you insure your car and not insure your life when you both can go at the same time? That's all I have for today. If y'all have any questions, the floor is open.
Let's give Lawrence a round of applause. Yes. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the living benefits. So let's just say that I had cancer on this living benefits. How would that cover me?
It depends on how old the cancer is. If it's a newly cancer, you're probably not going to get that policy. But if that cancer has been like,
no, I already have the policy. I'm already insured, and I have my insurance policy with living benefits. How would that play out with the insurance policy?
Oh, once you get diagnosed and you get that note from the doctor, you can access your death benefit up to, if it's $100,000 policy, it's 2%, which is $2,000 that you can get paid directly to you. Once the doctor gives you that note, we send it into the insurance company and they send you out a check. Now, if it's a $200,000 policy, then it will be $4,000 a month. You can take it for 1 month, or you can take it for as many months as you need.
Okay, so I can get this monthly benefit of $2,000, or if I have a higher face value of 200,000, I would get 2% of that, and that would be $4,000 that I could use to pay my bills while I'm trying to recover.
Yes, ma'am. And you can take as long as you need or until the money run out. So some people say, well, I'm going to be down for 6 or 8 months. So they might say, I just want to take it for 8 months. And then they're back to work. And so they can stop it. Some people might say, I'm going to take it till the policy runs out. I wouldn't recommend you taking till the policy runs out, because you never know what else might happen. You want to still have it in there. And so if you have some before you get sick, increase it. As your money increases, increase some of your life insurance, because it's going to always be there for you. And if you don't get to use it, your family will get the benefits.
Okay, that is amazing. So just keep in mind, everyone, like he said, you'll have this life insurance policy with the living benefits. You can utilize it while you're alive, and it can also protect your family as well if something happened to you and you pass away. Okay, so anybody else have any other questions? Thank you so much, Lawrence.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Nope. Okay, we're going to end the call today. Thank you guys for coming and speaking to us. You guys did an awesome job. I hope you guys got some really golden nuggets. Lawrence, why don't you give them your phone number so they'll know how to contact you?
My phone number is 757-449-6463. Again, I repeat, my phone number is 757-449-6463. I work from Maryland to Georgia. And if you're in any other states, we also have agents out there that can help you. So don't feel that you're in a place where we can't help you. And I thank y'all. If y'all forget and don't know my number, just reach out to Pam or the person that invited you to the call. They'll have my information. Thank y'all.
Okay.
Hey, Pam.
Hey, Sheila.
Hey, Pam. Great call. Very, very informative. I've learned a lot on this call. Thank you so much, you guys. I have a quick question for James in reference to purchasing, if he's still on. James, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here. Hey, Sheila.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
In reference to purchasing a property on a credit card, do you actually, I'm just thinking, we go out and buy, these bags, $10,000 and $15,000. So do you really suggest that we can, that we put a home on the credit card?
No. What I'm saying is that's what I did. I'm not suggesting that anybody do that, but that's something that I did. I was purchasing an investment property, and I was tapped out on cash. However, I was able to do a cash advance. I did a cash advance on the credit card, right? And with the cash advance, you have to be careful when doing a cash advance, especially with a credit card that already has a balance on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I found out is that when you do a cash advance, let's say you do a cash advance, let's say your credit limit is $30,000, right? But you only need 15 more thousand to go with whatever you're trying to acquire, right? So you do a cash advance for the 15,000. They'll charge you a fee for the initial cash advance, but then you have the ongoing interest that they're going to charge you on the cash advance. Now they have the credit card company that I'm with, they don't have a way to separate when you're ready to pay that $15,000 back. So if you're ready to pay that money back, let's say you did a cash out, you acquired the property, you rehabbed the property, you did a cash out refinance, you were able to get the cash back, and now you want to pay off that credit card. The credit card company is saying you have to pay the entire balance of the credit card off before they can stop the interest for just the cash advance fee. So when doing those other strategies, you got to really study it and see, okay, am I going to be able to make enough money to pay the credit card off, or am I going to be able to get the money back in enough time so that I don't have to pay the interest rate that they're going to charge me, because they're going to charge you a really high interest rate in order to do that. Is it better to actually go to try to qualify for some other type of financing versus you using a cash advance? So you want to make sure you study the process, study all those numbers before you pull the trigger on doing something like that.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great call, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, and then guys, there's different ways of, getting financing for a property. Of course, if the property is under 4 units, that means a single family residence, condo, townhome, a duplex, which is 2 units, triplex, which is 3 units, and a quadruplex, which is 4 units. You typically can purchase that home with a FHA loan or even a conventional loan for typically anywhere between 3.5% to 5% down. So if it's let's just say a $200,000 duplex, then that would be, on a 5%, that would be $10,000 that you would have to put as far as a down payment, and on FHA even less. So I had a client. She purchased a duplex, stayed in there for a year. She had a person already renting on the other side of her. She rented, when she left, she rented out the second unit, refinanced it, got cash out, and bought another property with that money. And it's an Airbnb. And this person is in her 70s. So everybody out there who's thinking I can't do it because I don't know what to do and blah, 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 you can do it. You just need to take the shackles off of your brain.
Oh, take the shackles off your brain. That's good.
Mm-hmm. So,
and Pam.
Yes, Sheila.
Don't forget the value of partnering with someone else too. Yeah. I am getting ready to partner with another female, and we're going to purchase our first investment home. Even though I've been in real estate for the last 15, 20 years, I've never invested on my own. I've purchased my own personal home, but this is my first investment. And of course, even though I'm in real estate, I am just a little afraid of investing, but I'm taking the shackles off my brain, and I am purchasing my first investment home. Woo-hoo, we're closing on Tuesday.
Yay!
Congratulations, Sheila.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. So the point is, if you can't do it alone, or if you feel just a little afraid, partnering with someone else can make that journey just a little lighter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's
Sheila, may I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
What What took you so long? What was the hesitation?
Um, don't know because I know the value. And I encourage everybody else to do it. But you know, it's almost like the teacher. You're teaching it, but you're not doing it yourself. So again, just like Pam said, removing the shackles off the teacher's brain.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what took me so long, to be honest with you. Because I do this all day, every day, and encourage everybody else to do it, but I was not doing it myself.
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily fear of getting in. It was just you hadn't really thought about it much.
Well, the fear for me, I don't want to be a landlord. That was one of my fears. I just don't want to be a landlord. So this opportunity that has come before me, it has allowed me to, you know, I could, but I think what I'm going to do for the first one is purchase and flip.
Okay. Okay. I don't want to get too far off the original topic, Pam. So let me know if I'm going a little bit too far. But Sheila, one of the things that I thought about initially was always being the landlord for my properties. It wasn't until I got my real estate license, and then the broker that I'm with doesn't do property management because, like I say, I filed bankruptcy in the whole 9 yards, and I'm starting back over again with additional properties. But because my broker doesn't do property management, I can't manage my own property. So my hands were kind of forced for me to actually use a property manager. And having now been using a property manager for several years, it's like night and day. You know, they'll call you only if they need for you to be involved, but otherwise they feel all of the you know the maintenance requests from the tenants. They'll handle all of that and everything. Some companies may ask you to put down a certain amount, like maybe $300 in an escrow account, and they'll just pull from that. They'll just pull from that money to make the repairs and stuff like that. So that's why I just kind of ask people what their hesitations are, so that I can try to shed a little bit more light to say, okay, that's a problem. Here's a solution over on the other side.
Okay, thank you so much. I will consider that.
You're welcome. Yeah,
that's great advice, James. And I just really recently found this out, probably the last 12 months, where if it's something that you don't want to do, you can delegate that to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, every day, all day, no matter what it is that you're trying to accomplish. If you don't want to do it, or if you're unable to do it, there's somebody out there who's getting paid to actually do that. You just have to find them. Somebody who loves to do what it is that you need to actually have done.
Great. Yep. Great advice.
I have one question. Are your realtors referring your clients and asking them to get mortgage protection for their homes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay. Good. I'm going to send you all some information.
Okay. And little doggy.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so if you guys got to go, I can understand. We got one more speaker who's going to talk to us about financing real quick. I'm going to mute Sheila here.
I'm sorry. I'm trying.
Oh, okay. He's going to talk to us about financing. We'll see if he can jump on. I sent the link to him. But there is I forgot to tell you guys, if you're, you already own a property or several properties, you own probably, 6 or 7 or whatever, it gets to a point where they may not want to give you any more money. And so that might be an issue. So there is a loan product out there called, I think it's DESC, and they call it the Discover Loan. But basically, if you have a credit score of at least, I think you have to have at least a 620, and you would have to put 20% down. They don't need any bank statements. they're looking just at the asset. Okay. So if you see like a small apartment building, maybe it's 5 units or 10 units, and you have the down payment, and of course, you're going to have reserves. And reserves are basically money that the lender wants you to have kind of in savings, or kind of like what James said, kind of like an escrow to pull from. You can buy that property as well as investment property. So don't think that you got to have all these paperwork for this. And this is for experienced investor. This is not for the first time home buyer person that we're talking to today, but it's somebody who's been, in the business and has managed properties, because they will need that experience. But if you don't have that experience, you can always, like Sheila said, partner with someone, and they will consider that as well. Okay. And I thought that I don't think he can get on. He's trying to, but he can't. So
what's the excuse me, what's the name of that program or that product, please?
It's the Discover Loan. What I'll do is I'll email you the person who has that particular product, Bernie. I'll email you his information.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. So any other questions? Any questions? Okay. All right. So I'm going to end this meeting. We're at the top of the hour. And thank you guys for attending. I really appreciate you guys jumping on today. Thank you so much for our panel who, spoke today. That was so informative. All that Lauren said, all what Sheila said, James, thank you very much. And I want you guys to have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
Margie.